Find your path with the knowledge of others and become an illuminator for those who struggle. Guide their way just by being true and being in alignment, because it comes naturally to you. On self-discovery wisdom, we share to find inspiration with lessons for millions. We hope you listen.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Building Your Business right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Bob Lambert. We've got a few things to talk about, and a lot of it is about human-centered business insights. He says human to human, something we kind of seem to have forgotten in this world of how to actually speak with each other. We're going to be talking about business insights, trusted leadership, communication, presentation skills, emerging leader management, upskilling. And he says the human-centered business is, something that we need to trust in leadership. We need to have that communication from human to human and know how to present things that really are helping other people in a way that is from that human to human. So he believes that every person brings a unique talents and gifts, and that the organizations thrive when leaders earn trust and put people first. Amen. At Human to Human, he draws on decades of leadership experiencing to foster individual growth, confidence, clear communication, and authentic engagement. Because of the one competitive advantage no one can replicate is your people. We connect people first, companies with trusted partners who help teams and cultures grow, flourish, and excel, always focusing on listening before selling and aligning solutions with your values and your goals. And he likes the approach of placing trust, clarity, and growth in the heart of all the work that's done. They religiously vet every partner, selecting only those with proven results and years of successful collaboration to create strategic, lasting relationships with non-surface level introductions. Through honest conversations, tough questions, real human insights, they help organizations address challenges like trust building, communication, engagement, leadership development, retention, and collaboration. They work primarily with executive leaders in mid-market, privately held companies, and peer groups and leaders who are committed to elevating performances through trust, communication, and people-centered relationship. Now, you may have noticed people-centered relationship keeps coming up, and that is his core value there. So he's been a high-energy executive for more than 40 years in the experience of strategic business development, marketing, and sales across global 50 and Fortune 500 companies. He's founded 5 successful startups, generated millions in revenue, and driven sustained profit growth across diverse industries, including automotive, consumer goods, financial services, technology, retail, manufacturing, and professional services. So he's more than qualified to help us right now. But the bottom line of it is the human to human. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter the industry, but are we placing an investment in the people that work for us, in the people that we serve? Because yes, we have AI, and I've just done a wonderful AI show on how to use it, and it's here to stay, and it's a wonderful asset, but we've still got to actually understand we need the human to human, we need to speak with each other, we need to serve each other, and we've got to stop looking over our heads and start looking into each other's eyes and hearts. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Wow, man, I'm exhausted. You talking, saying that. I said you this, and I'm thinking, I wrote that? Wow. Actually, I had somebody else write it, because I find oftentimes my best stuff is when people interview me. And they pull stuff out of me that, I'm just come up with some of this stuff. So yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for, since the time we met each other, and we're kindred spirits about life and people and everything else, and connections, real sincere connections.
Yes.
I'm just thrilled that I had the opportunity to come and join you today.
I'm delighted you're here, because of course you're ticking all the boxes with me, with, human to human, coming from the heart. We can all have success. Every business can have success. Every business can be that Fortune 500 if it wants to be. But on whose back is it
Yeah.
getting there? And you know
Right.
what we're seeing right now in the opulence of certain companies and billionaires, that they've got on the back of suffering, of treading people down rather than lifting people up. And I think when you have a company that not only is, financially up there, but have they enriched the people that work with them along the way? Is everybody benefiting? Because if everybody's not benefiting, that means somebody's suffering for your gain. And that's what we want to see go by the wayside.
Yeah. And I think you said it best too about, the whole emphasis and the focus on shiny objects right now, AI, tech
Mm,
stacks, robotics, and all that. Uh, you know, um, I just felt, and at my core, I've had this forever. All the businesses I've had, I knew absolutely that the total assets of my business walked out the door every night. It wasn't
hmm.
about anything
Yes.
else that we had, and praying to God that they'd come back.
Hmm.
And
Well,
and
that's
and
that's how
truly,
you set things up, whether they're going to come back. Do they feel that they're a part of something?
right.
Right?
And early in my career in corporate, I really worked for some fantastic people. I mean, they had those qualities. They had that integrity and the trust and all the rest of those things. I would have run through walls for most of the leaders that I worked
Mm,
for in that thing. Not with their ups and downs and all that stuff, but I learned things that I later from the businesses that I started that I was not going to do. you know
hmm.
so
Hmm.
uh and that takes over a period of time through all the different businesses, but that was a very core thing to me. And so when all in the what I call the fourth quarter of my life,
Hmm.
I started looking at, well, how can I get back? And a lot of the stuff that I built was through connections, through our
Yes.
networks,
Yes.
and
Yes.
genuine relationships. I'm very much a relational person, and in-person relationships.
Hmm.
So just to give you a little bit of a background how all this human human started, about 5 years ago, I was really having a season discontent with the last half of the millennials and Z's because they
Hmm.
couldn't look you in the eye. All thumbs
Right.
down, and they couldn't look you in the eye. They couldn't really have a conversation. And then I'd be at speaking engagements and talking about networking and person-to-person relationships. And I'd have people coming up to me afterwards. I really vividly remember one gentleman come up to me after talk, and he said, "Man, you really hit it on the head." He says, "I got a teenage son. I had to take away all his privileges, all his electronics and everything to for him to pick up the phone and talk to his grandmother on the phone."
Hmm. Hmm.
He said it took him 30 minutes to do that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I thought, wow, wow. And I'm not putting down the younger generation. It's just that it's a whole different ballgame
Unfortunately,
for
that's
them.
where we've led them. Right.
Well,
Hmm.
it's that in COVID and a lot of other
Yes.
things,
Yeah.
they were sequestered. So you're absolutely right. And so that's what led to the whole thing.
Hmm.
So I'm still pinching myself. I was actually got that name. Frankly, I didn't know what I was going to do with it because I'd sold the company and was on an earnout for a couple of years. So I'd try to figure it out. And over a period of about 12 months is when it really started to settle
Hmm.
in. What are the gifts? What are the talents? What have I been given that I've used and recognized as you do an inventory of yourself and what you're
Yes.
about, what my purpose is, my why, and all those kind of things. It has always been about connecting people, great
Exactly.
people, and connecting people in a genuine, authentic way, not just transactional.
Yeah.
Uh, I got relationships to this day that go back 30, 40 years,
Hmm.
so trying to keep up with people, see how they're doing, and it's really fascinating because you get into about a 5 minute conversation, all of a sudden it's like,
5 hours.
all the years between that time,
Yeah.
is gone, and you're sitting there catching up. You got this thing's going on, that thing's
Yeah.
going on. But that was at the core of it. The other thing that was really important that it had to be, if I'm going to represent and connect companies, and I only have three of them that I do this with, that I had to know them, I had to trust them, I
Hmm.
had to be a part of and understand exactly the value that they were delivering. And they had to be human centered. All the
Yes.
services had to be the focus, had to be on human beings, not on all the rest of the stuff. And I'm not putting any of that down or not saying, but human beings, because as I've talked to leaders, and I said, particularly around the trust thing, and especially
Hmm.
the division we got going on
Yeah.
all across the board now, I said, can you name five leaders that you actually trust?
Hmm.
And every one, it's like, well, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, okay, well,
Hesitation. Yes.
that says one thing right there.
Uh-huh.
The other thing was, and again, dealing with the size companies, these are mid-market companies. They're usually privately held or closely held companies. They're not big corporations. And one of the things that I had to bring up to them, I said, there's only one thing your competitors can't duplicate. They can duplicate every single thing else that you have. And oftentimes we see that, when you start seeing messaging, it all looks the same. What's
Yes,
the
I
point of
know.
distinction between one company or the other, whatever? And also, I've been a student of watching companies that had great corporate cultures, how well they did. They outperformed their peer
Yeah,
groups unilaterally. But what was the essence of that? The essence was their culture and what they did with their people.
yeah.
They believed in their people, they trained their people, they lifted them up, all those kind of things. So as I shared with them, I said, that one thing is your people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your competitors cannot duplicate your people.
Yeah,
It's the care and the feeding of your people that is going to
100%.
help you excel.
When you give people a sense of value and appreciation, they feel I'm home. This is
Yeah.
my work family. I want
Yep.
this company to succeed because I'm a part of it. I'm recognized at being a part of it. I'm,
Yep.
part of the cog in the wheel here and I'm seen for it. And then people take pride in coming to work. They take pride in
Yep.
being a part of something. They want to see it succeed and they'll do everything they can to see it succeed because they're working together. Now,
Right.
I'm going to reveal our age here. I'm going back to the 70s when I first started working. And everything was kind of, if you remember Dynasty in Dallas, cutthroat, right?
Right.
It was all about just money, money, money. And of course, when we're looking at the generations right now that are the billionaires and that are, the opulence, they're from that dynasty. And it was really about just getting ahead and making money
Right.
I worked for a number of mostly I've always worked for myself, but I worked for a few corporations and I actually got fired by three bosses only for the higher ups to offer me their job. And the reason why the person fired me is because I pointed out a flaw in the system, right? Which they didn't want to acknowledge because they couldn't be bothered to do anything about. So
Right.
I went and shared the flaw in the system. And I didn't want their job. I just wanted them to do their job. And I realized actually I was a bit of a disruptor. I was there to disrupt the complacency of the company.
Right.
Right. And basically, everything I've ever done is on um, human resources or customer service. Always. When
Yes.
your
Yep.
customer is happy, they're going to come back to you. When your customer isn't happy, even if they like the product, they're not getting the service. They're not going to come back to you. And being out there as a rep and amongst the people that needed the service and their biggest frustration wasn't the product, it was the service. I recognize that we're just looking at the dollar and we're not looking at the person and building those relationships. When you've got somebody that's been with the same company 20 or 30 years because
Yeah.
they feel a part of that family as
Yep.
well, right?
You
Now
bet.
you've got something that they've grown together. It's in each other's interest. But we became very cutthroat. We became very bottom line. And,
Yep.
we see this in the medical business. We see this in numerous other industries. Bottom line, bottom line. Who cares if you chew people up and spit them out? And we were doing
Yep.
that to CEOs. We're doing that to a lot of people that, no, you've got to work 60, 70 hours a week if you want to get ahead. You've got to walk over someone to get ahead. You've got to
Right.
trample on someone. And it's like, what? No. What does that do? It leads to depression. It leads to burnout. It leads to dysfunction. It leads to crippling. All of the negative things that it
Yep.
leads to because it's the wrong message, right?
Yeah. As human beings, we're tribal. We need
Yes.
to be together. We need
Yes.
to do that. My biggest fear is that we're getting away from it with the younger people. I mean, there's been
Mm.
a lot written about some of the stuff that happened during COVID and the sequestering and all that stuff. I'm just hoping that that the
The
light of day
pendulum
is going to
swings.
shine through. Yeah,
Mm.
it does swing, and I frankly I just want to be a small part of that. That it
Yes.
swings back to
Yes. Yes.
getting back to and you mentioned something earlier too about authenticity. Uh, and I question people about this when they say being authentic, because
Mm.
I have to sit there and say to myself, what is really authentic?
Mm-hmm.
And how you come across. Now,
Not
I've been
just a
a networker.
catchphrase.
I've been a networker for a long time. And truth telling is something, but you
Mm.
have to also be careful with it as to
Mm-hmm.
whose truth is it, number one, and how you couch it or how you phrase it,
Yeah.
because you can do a lot of damage,
Yes.
because you think it's truthful saying it to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like to your point,
Mm-hmm.
you pointed out a flaw. Well, I had a negative reverse
Right.
of what you didn't want happening.
Nope.
Fortunately, the people above recognize your talent, recognize
Yeah.
something special about you, and they, allowed you to take and voice that. And that's good leadership. I mean, I don't
Yes.
care where it's at and all that,
Yeah.
but that's good leadership. And when they listen, a
Mm.
lot of people have asked me, well, Bob, what's the secret to leadership? And I said, number one is humility,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're so filled with narcissism today with
Oh,
what's going on in the world. It's just
egos.
like
Oh, yeah.
humility, you
Yes.
know, um, integrity,
Mm.
character, all these
Mm-hmm.
things count, so
Absolutely.
that's why, I elected to represent a company that has the first ever trust index and trust assessment for whole companies. So it's not only at the individual level, it's at the team level and at the corporate level.
Right.
And I got to tell you something, it is eye opening.
Oh boy. Mm-hmm.
The author Rob McKenna, which is the founder of it, is a IO PhD, one of the top 30 in the world, out of Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And Rob, I've known he was actually a teacher of MBA students and PhD students there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you can imagine, in Seattle, you got a lot of big corporations and
Yes.
leadership. He's getting pulled into all these companies. So
Yeah.
in my estimation, it's called Wild Leaders. It stands for Whole Intentional Leader Development, and
Mm-hmm.
it takes in the entire entity of the entire
Good.
person, which is phenomenal. I mean, even over to the mental awareness and all those
Mm-hmm.
things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
health. So in this discovery, as Rob was working through this, trust just kept coming up, and we've
Yeah.
seen how it's fallen off a cliff over the
Uh-huh.
last couple of decades.
Yes.
So he dove into that because he had the access to research and doing all that stuff. So he just launched his book, Whole Leader Trust. What was it? No, it's not. It's Whole Whole Leader
It will come to you.
Wild Trust. Wild
Oh,
Trust. Yeah,
right.
Whole Leader Wild Trust. Just launched it last Tuesday, and he interviewed on his podcast back in August of last year Stephen M. Covey, which is the author of the Speed of Trust. It was about two
Mm.
and a half decades ago,
Mm-hmm.
and those guys had a love fest.
Oh God,
Covey
yes.
just with Rob's book, because he had one stack over here, and Rob really completed the whole picture. And to the point of how impressed he was, he wrote the introduction to Rob's book.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 weeks later, he had Patrick Lencioni on. And Patrick and him had a love fest about trust. So this whole thing, trust is starting to
Building an
bubble up.
orchestra here, right?
Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's starting to really bubble up. And
Yeah.
I tell you, sir, I'm just so joy filled that finally, it's getting the
Yes.
attention. And it's been building up for a period of time. But now with people that have some
Yeah.
gravitas and have some celebrity and
Mm.
that people are going to start hopefully paying attention to this stuff. You know?
There's one thing I want to address is if you really want to know what's going on in a company, ask the janitor.
Yeah.
Right? And I always say that the janitor sets the stage. If you walk into a company and it's dirty, tardy, your impression of the CEO when you get to the ivory tower has changed. You walk in there, everything is shiny and pristine and, looking the best that it is, you are now prepared. And so, you want to know what's going on, ask the janitors. They know what's going on and they'll know, I think how you really measure a company is not how rich it is or how abundant it is, how rich the CEO is how enriched are the people that work there? How abundant are they? Do they feel heard? Do they feel seen? Do they feel that they can come to the table with an idea and not get shut down? Are there bonuses? Are there appreciations? Are there, somebody gets sick or somebody has sickness in the family, support? It's a celebration when someone gets married or has a celebration. If it's a work family, we've got to celebrate all the ups and downs of that work family. And if they feel, my mother's sick or my kids are sick and I need to take some time off, but I'm going to lose my job, right? Then, where is the humanity in that? Instead, if the company says, go and take the time, we're with you, right? Because then they know that they can really dedicate their time to their child. And when they come back, not only the appreciation, the gratitude of being supported, but, they were able to focus in what mattered. And I think if we don't put the humanity first, which at the present moment, what we're seeing in neon lights is the opulence at anybody else's expense, right? That's what narcissism is. As long
Yep.
as I feel good, I don't care who suffers. And this is what we're seeing right now across the board there. And, eventually, it doesn't matter how much they have, they will never be happy because it will never be enough because they're empty inside.
Yep.
Now, when you fill people up from the inside out, I see you, I value, I feel you, I like you, you're filling them up from the inside out. That essence, that abundance, that enrichment then pours out of them into the arena that they're in, not only the work arena, but the home arena, their friends arena, the community benefits from it. I have now for nearly 14 years been doing podcasting, and I've interviewed an awful lot of people along the business side of things. And the absolute pleasure and delight of seeing this kind of thinking of let's enrich the people, for they will make the community abundant, is happening across the board. And it's wonderful to see, because this is really what seeds and roots abundance for all.
Yes.
Right? Not just for the ivory towers.
I'll give you a little tip. When I was in sales visiting companies, I could always tell a company, okay, how I was going to be welcomed by where they put the visitors parking.
If it's way
If
over
the
there.
front was all corporate, or this
Yes.
guy and that guy, or this
Mhm.
gal and that gal, and the visitors were in the back,
Yeah.
then I knew that was not a visitor friendly company.
Right, you're right. That's a good point. I've never seen it from that point of view, but yes,
That was
make
one.
people
And
feel
number
welcome.
two, how were you greeted? Were people smiling,
Yes.
walking by you and everything else, or were they just,
You don't have an appointment.
it's like, yeah, and I got to tell you, back when the companies had receptionists, that was the gatekeeper. And boy, I'll
Yes.
tell you, I met some fabulous receptionists. I mean,
Yes.
uh, they were phenomenal. They
Yes.
did. And one of them that I met that was with Dow Chemical, this woman was absolutely extraordinary. They were paying her six figures back then. This goes back probably 30 years ago.
Mm.
Um, because they spirited her away from IBM to work
Mm-hmm.
for them, and specifically to work the desk. This woman had an incredible memory.
Mm.
If she met you one time, she knew your name, she knew about you, what company you work for. I was just astonished. I
Yes.
walked in, her name was Celeste, and I'll never forget her. Another one I had was Quaker Oats here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I go in there, and they had two receptionists back then. And these gals were really funny because they did, when visitors would come in, they would try to kind of peg them as a celebrity lookalike. Okay. Now, not everybody got on the list, but I got
Right.
on the list. And I was known, they would call me Richard because they thought I looked like Richard Dreyfuss, you know? And I was just like, oh, here comes Richard again. It's like, what? It
It's
was so funny,
welcoming,
but they
isn't
had
it?
fun. It was
Yes.
great.
Yes.
And people that would come, they got engaged with them. They
Yeah.
got them coffee or tea or a soft drink or whatever they wanted. They always had candy,
Mm-hmm.
and little goodies, that they would pass out if you wanted that. If you were sitting there more than about 10 minutes, then they put the call in again. Hey, do you know
Yeah.
so and so's here in the lobby? They're
Mm.
waiting. Where are we at? And give you an update. I mean,
Yes.
it was like
Not just for you flapping in the wind, right? Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was true. Well, I've been very blessed because I've
Uh,
seen the good, the bad,
uh-huh.
and the ugly.
Well,
You know?
that's the thing is that's the good, because I used
Mhm.
to in a restaurant and trying to teach people, new waiters and waitresses how to
Oh, yeah.
serve. It's like if you're going to the back of the room with food, on your way back, eyes are doing this, either side of the table. Whose plate needs to be cleared? Do they need dessert? Do they need more coffee? Pay attention. And also, if you're serving someone and someone comes through the door and you can't serve them straight away, it's acknowledgement. Be right with you. Right? Just to,
Right. Yes, yes,
look at
yes.
them, be
Right.
right with you, whether you can say it out loud or just mouth it. You've been acknowledged. They know you're
Yes.
busy, you'll get to them, but you at least have seen them. I tell you, it
Right.
was really, really hard to teach
Oh,
people
yeah.
to do that, because it's like they were just blinkers back and forth. And
I had
instead
it.
of looking
I
at,
had an experience with that at one time with my son. He got some great training because he was when in college he was doing it, and he got some great training because here's what the that really got their attention, right? Was these are the things you want to do if you want to make this.
right, make money.
You know, it was all about the direct connect, and he finally got it. You know, because he wasn't a people person, but boy, I'll tell you, he was on stage with whoever he was serving. You know,
Hmm.
he just served them, not overly so, where he's hovering,
Yeah.
because I've had that happen. And that's
Yes.
not really a comfortable thing. But paying attention, like you said, just paying
Hmm.
attention. You know, and he he was also bartended too. And
Right.
man, oh
Yes.
man, I was astonished how much money he was getting in tips
Oh, yes. Yes.
and
Definitely. Good
gifts at
job.
Christmas. I mean, they were bringing him gifts,
Yes, yes. And because,
regulars.
because like a hairdresser, they kind of very often become a confidant or a safe place for people to come. I was South Africa's first mobile rep for mobile oil,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So, woman rep. They never had a woman rep before.
There you go.
And I knew nothing about oil. I went into some sort of thingy and it still didn't register with me. But what I did know was customer service. All right. When I
That's
went and
it.
talked to them, I didn't have to tell them the latest thing on oil. They
Right.
knew, right?
Right.
Really, it was down to what service were they getting? Who was
Yep.
serving the best? Who was paying more attention to them? Who was even giving them ideas how to grow or what to do or how to display things, etc. That's what they
Right.
needed. They didn't need somebody else that knew everything about oil but couldn't give them the service, right? So,
Well, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we don't teach people enough about customer service. And why
Yep.
I don't care what industry you're in, whether you're a solopreneur, a small business, or a big corporate, the customer service is really what people are looking for. Do you know who I am? Do you acknowledge my needs? Are you there to help me? Or
Yeah.
are you just there for your bottom line and you don't give a damn? I call it next and a number. I don't want to be next and a number, thank you. I want to be a
Well,
human.
you hit the nail on the head. A lot of sales is because I did a lot of sales training and coaching over the years in my
Hmm.
companies. I had marketing, I had sales, I had business development. All those have kind of folded in around that. And the last company was all focused on the buy, not on the sell.
Yes,
So we taught, trained, and coached people how people buy, not how you sell them.
yes.
And it was about good. And we were one of the first to really incorporate the Socratic method of
Hmm.
questioning
Hmm.
to that, because you cannot ask somebody a great Socratic question that they can answer with a yes or no. So it was
Hmm.
what, why, where, when, how, and who, as Socrates taught. And so that would reveal things. And I would tell the clients, and I tell the students all the time, the buyer will tell you everything you need to help them to buy from you. You
Exactly.
just got to ask great questions and shut up and listen.
And that brings us back to another job I had. I've owned my own dress store, but I was working in a boutique, and this woman came in, and there were these Angora dress pantsuits, and she just loved the feel of it. And I said, honey, I want you to go away and come back tomorrow if you feel like having it. I'm not going to sell it to you today, right? Because she didn't have the body for it. Right. I know she felt good in
Oh,
it, but she didn't have the body for it. And I know that somebody would point that out, and I didn't want her to be humiliated. And between her coming back the next day and my boss, I got fired for not selling it to her. Right.
oh,
And
oh,
so
wow.
she came in shortly afterwards, because it was going to be my last day. And she said, Thank you. Thank you so much for not selling it to me. I thought about it. Yes, I was just loving the feel of it, and I wasn't paying attention to the look of it. And I said, Well, it's my last day. And I'll come back and buy from you. I said, But it's my last day. And she went over to the it was in a department store. She went over to the top. So again, that was a question of my boss getting fired and me being offered her job. And again, I didn't want that job because I wasn't looking for management. I just wanted to be able to serve my customers in a way that I felt integral. I didn't want
Right.
to sell something just for the few dollars in the can there. I wanted somebody to come back because they trusted in me in
Bingo.
in in what I
Bingo.
do. So, it's like with referrals today. You've got these platforms, refer. I don't refer anybody I haven't had a conversation with or I haven't interviewed, because
Yep.
how can I if I don't know anything about you,
Yep.
right? Because
And,
my
and that's
integrity is on the line.
a lot of people don't really understand. That gets into the whole trust factor because,
Mm,
in effect, as I give referrals, and I make introduction. I do quality introductions. So I go a little bit beyond just throwing a name at somebody or whatever, because I learned a long time ago about that. There's a cute little story that I'll just tell you about referrals, because I thought that was it. So this guy, Chad, he big networker. And so Chad gave me a referral. Yeah, go call Tom. Here's his number and tell him I sent you. Right. Um, Great. And I thought, oh wow, yeah. Chad's giving me this introduction. And so I go and I call Tom up and say, hi Tom, this is Bob Lambert. I'm a friend of Chad's. And he said, Chad? And I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. He said, Chad so and so? And I said, yeah. He said, he still owes me money. Where do you go with that? Right.
Exactly.
And I learned my lesson now, because when somebody says, yeah, go see so and so, well, how do you know them? How well do you know them?
Yeah.
What are they going to say about you? Kind
Yes.
of thing. Because I'm looking at it through my eyes. But the other thing too is you're putting your reputation on the line for somebody
Yes.
else.
Yes.
Okay. And that's why few people will do that, because of fear.
Yeah.
If you go and you screw up my good customer for me or my
Right.
relationship, that's going to come back on me.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple incidents where that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? I went back to that person because of, and I didn't let it go. I went back to them because they need to understand what they did and
Exactly.
how harmful it was,
Right.
to a relationship. Now, fortunately, the people didn't really, but they communicated back to me, the people I referred them to, they made a point. And again, because of a trust relationship,
Yeah.
they trusted me and they did, what I asked to do. I don't have any control over that other person. I thought the other person was a good
Right.
person, to do that with. Found out differently,
And that's the thing is there's always a due diligence and everything. And it's like we've got into mass selling, mass blanketing, mass. And I know everybody's on the same clock. We've all under the same time. And like as I said, I've just done a show on how to introduce AI into your business that can take care of those time-consuming things so you can concentrate on your business, right? Because that always has a place. It's not there to replace, it's there to enhance your time to be more efficient. But that's the key word, time. People want to know you have time for them. And like for me, when, if I'm local, meet you for a cup of coffee. Oh, let's have a 15-minute cup of coffee. 2 hours later, we're still talking, right?
Right.
And the thing is
Yeah.
give people time because you don't understand. You're showing respect, right? You're showing willingness to learn. You're finding out if there's a synergy between you. I've had coffee with people where they know it's not going to go anywhere, and I've had a coffee with people that have ended up being not only my podcast guests but also friends.
Yes.
And the thing is we give each other time to hear each other and not pitch to each other, right? But to hear each other and get to know each other. We're developing a trust, we're developing a respect. And whether they end up being your clientele or referring you, it's coming from a place of that they really have got to know who you are. Do not come at people. I mean, I've had this with people. I'm #1 bestseller. I've been on all the things that they've been on of the top. So, but who are you? Who are you? Right? This is your accolades. Great, but I don't want you to lead with that. Right? I want you to lead with I call these my why shows. Why are you doing what you're doing? What has taken you on this journey to do what you're doing? Whom do you serve and how? Right? I'm not interested in that you were on Oprah's show or this show or that show. That's fine. That's all very well and great. But who are you? Right? And how are you serving? I mean, is it coming from the heart? Is it part of your conviction and your purpose? Because that's the driving force I want to support.
I always tell you, because I did a lot of teaching on networking, and how I did it relationally. But I always started with the other person. I wanted to know their background, where they went to school. Now, LinkedIn's given us a lot of information. I do my homework before I talk to anybody anymore. I go out and Google them. I get, information. I also look on LinkedIn to who they connected to that I know.
Yeah.
Who's the mutual connections that I know? And so, and I would, ask them, how do you know so-and-so? How do you know Sarah? Oh, I don't know, and I'm thinking, okay, well, that's not much of a relationship if you don't know her. But the other thing is that I'll spend that time with somebody to get to know them, their family,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
background, where they went to school, what are they excited about, all those kind of things. But what I came down to is a lot of people don't really give a damn about you. They
I
care about
know.
themselves.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
So
Yes.
I would stop it. I would cut it off about at 15,
Yeah.
20 minutes into the
Mm.
conversation. I say, can I ask you a question? And he'd say, well, sure. Yeah. I said, what do you know about me?
Mm-hmm.
Deer in the headlights.
Yes.
And I thought, and I got to the point where, okay, this is over with.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
this is
And
over with because you don't really care, you know?
and you've
And
got people that get into business where they're selling something and they're selling something that means something to them. And like, oh, you got to get it,
well,
you got to get it, you got to get it, you got to get it. And it's like, it has absolutely no space in my life whatsoever. Had you asked me questions, you would find out whether it's a fit for me or not, right? Instead
right.
of forcing something on me that really has no connection to my life at all.
Well said. And that's, again, why it started with that leadership and
Mm-hmm.
the trust thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned it several times,
Yes,
communication and presentation skills.
yes,
Enormously important, especially for our younger people today, as they're coming into the marketplace, the workplace. They haven't been taught a lot of this stuff, where they don't
mm,
inherently have that because they may not have had enough adult interaction
yeah.
or business people interaction. So
And too
as
much social media,
well, yeah, and
you
it's
should, rather than getting
well,
to know your own style, you know?
yeah, and I've got you know 20 something grandchildren now, right? And I
Wow.
tell people that they text me, and I say, I feel like I'm in a Star Wars episode trying to figure out what the heck they're talking about. It's like, what
Talking in
is this?
memes, yes.
Yeah, the memes. I'm like, okay. Uh, so it's, but communication skills are just so important today. And so that's why the second company, and I'm a part of the book that he just launched, Synergy and Spark,
Mm,
where he got fascinated with my marketing background. And my agency was the agency that worked on and launched Nerds Candy. Well, I'm still relevant at my age
mm,
because I wasn't, this thing has just become a cultural icon, And so and here's a little hilarious thing. He invited me to come to the book signing, was in Chicago, downtown
mhm,
Chicago, at a very eclectic restaurant. So I go down there and I'm early because I had to drive down. And I couldn't train it down. So I was cognizant of that. And so I walk in this restaurant and they got these little nerd boxes on every table, right?
mhm,
And I'm going, well, that's kind of interesting. He never said a word to me. So he had two guests came. One came in from San Francisco that was in the book, and then myself. And so he comes to me and he says, hey, I want to introduce you, Bob Blair, da 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 da. And Bob's going to stick around to sign your nerds boxes for you. You want to hear what was hilarious? My line was bigger than his for signing the book. Like that, these people that lived in the area or the neighborhood, they went back and got their kids and brought them, for me. He's there for 2 hours. It was delightful. I had a greatest time,
mm,
meeting and these people telling me stories, about growing up with this stuff, and they were
yes.
genuinely into it. I thought, God, this is great.
I think,
Uh,
every single one of us has a story. I don't care who you are, where you're from, we've all got a story, whether it's a sad story, glad story, just a story. And stories matter because,
oh yeah,
people say to me, who do I interview? And I go, all those that come from the heart and have something meaningful to share, whether it's a book, whether it's a story, music, or an experience in life or business, it doesn't matter. There's 20 different genres here. And it really matters about your story because your experience and what you've been through becomes somebody else's information on how to apply it to their life. So my motto
yeah,
on my shows is listen, learn, and apply, because there's always something you've heard that you've listened to that if you apply it to your life helps you see things differently or apply
right.
things differently. And I think it's that willingness, a lot of people have become what I call headliners. And it's
Mm,
all about the title and not the content or the context of the content. And my shows are not short. I'm not for the headliners. I'm for the people that are
right,
hungry for information, hungry
right.
for knowledge, hungry for inspiration, because I believe inspiration begets invitation, right?
Yep.
And it's about investing in yourself to willing to learn, discover something about yourself, discover that, that's my strength, and that is my weakness. And, I really would love to know more about that. But if we're not willing to listen to other people and their stories, how do we make a connection to ourselves and what's going on inside?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things about this company, they released the book Synergy and Spark, and it's a great stories all the way through it. You know, in
Mm-hmm.
particular communication. Well, the guys that founded this were two out of work actors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who
Mm-hmm.
better to do training for communications and presentation skills than
Yes.
actors? They're global now, and
Yeah.
all of their trainers and their instruction people are all actor trained. I sat through several of their presentations and people that they interface with, and I got to tell you, I've had quite a bit of that kind of training. But man, oh man, not only that training from that standpoint, but there was a community college out of California that I got to sit in. I had the privilege of sitting in and watch their training with their and two great instructors. They were fabulous, and they had 8 women that were in this. That generally speaking, their whole interface with anybody, students or even the
Mm.
faculty, was online. Was this?
Yeah.
And so, you know, and as you know, speaking or presentations, the biggest fear that anybody has.
Mm,
We're only
yes. Mm-hmm.
we're only born with one fear. You know what that is?
Fear itself.
Fear of falling. Everybody
Interesting.
has that fear
Ah.
that's born. They have the fear of falling. Yes.
Ah.
So, so public speaking's right up there, you know, or
Mm,
getting up. And
mm,
this one gal, I felt really bad for her. They were asked, you know, who are you? What do you want to get out of this and all that some? And she said, I just have such a now she was beet red. I mean,
mm,
she really had a reaction. By the end of that 2 days, she had like rosy cheeks. She was
mm-hmm.
filled with confidence. And one of the exercises I was just thought was just out of over the top. They gave all 20 minutes to come up with a product or a service. And then they had to give a 5 minute Shark Tank pitch.
Ah.
It was that, and the first gal up knocked the cover off the ball. It was just like, wow. But they also gave them the skill of what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
How to frame yourself out when you're doing
Yes.
this, gesturing, lighting, which is really
Yes.
important, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
how you're elevating, having good equipment, you know, and all
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things. And I was just enthralled with it because these two instructors made it so easy for them.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they weren't really hard critiquing them. They were just giving them suggestions. Hey,
Wasn't
did you think about
criticism, it
this?
was critiquing.
It
Yes.
was
Yes.
critiquing, and it
Yes.
was just fabulous the way they
Yeah.
presented it. And these people just drawn to it, and the skills. I'm not kidding you. I was just so impressed with these 8 women after coming out, and each one of them had a specific thing, and the range was probably late 20s to
Yeah.
mid 50s. It was amazing. Every single one of them was beaming after this thing.
Right, because they learned something about themselves and a skill that they've learned. Now, I know with my
Right.
public speaking, I did one a little while ago and I used slides, and I'm like, no, I'm never going to do that again. I get
Right.
distracted by the slides. I can
Yep.
have a slide that I can send to them afterwards, but do not have it up during the presentation. I am so much better than reading the energy of the room and then just speaking and then interaction. I love
Yes.
question period. I love you
Yes.
can throw me a question and I'm very much kind of being able to answer on the spot. But I prefer
Right.
that here's the topic, here now let's have the flow. And that's where
Yep.
I'm at my best. And I think it's through trial and tribulation that you go through where am
Oh,
I
yeah.
most comfortable at? And yes, we want to push you out of your comfort zone. It's not a question of that. Where do you really feel your strength is? This
Yes.
is my strength of presentation. That one isn't. And part of mine is I'm dyslexic. So I'm looking at the slide and I'm addressing the wrong thing. So, like, why go where you have difficulty? Go where there is the flow. And I think it's exposing yourself to these various ways of doing it to find out, I'm really in flow with this one. This is one I really feel I can let it all out and be. But you've got to go through the various exercises to find out where your strength is.
You said something that's really fabulous because I've done a lot of live speaking in front of
Mm-hmm.
audience, and I'm like you. You read the
Yeah.
faces, you read the audience, you pick
Yeah.
somebody out. I would have a habit of before the whole thing would start, I would wander around through the crowd and get to
Mm.
meet people personally, so then
Mm.
I could relate and tell a story,
Yes.
and something about that person or whatever the case that
Mm.
was relevant to what I was talking
Yeah.
about. And so I had to I had to put together, back during COVID, I had to put together teaching videos. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was the worst experience I ever had. It was absolutely unbelievable, staring at a little red dot, and I
Yes.
had to deliver something, and they had the teleprompter and all that stuff, and I mean, the guy was unbelievable, my coach,
Yeah.
to talk me off the cliff. But it was the worst experience I'd ever had
No, because I'm
because
very in the flow, in this on the spot, in the moment,
exactly.
and feeling other people, and I'm not kind of, no, I can't do that. Right? So yeah,
I was
but
horrified when
this,
the first set of those. I mean,
yeah,
I'm investing a lot of money in this because
yeah,
it's time and the whole studio time and everything. And finally, he got me, so I calmed down. And I was
yeah.
able to. But we did a whole series of about 8 videos,
Mm.
and as they progressed, I got a lot more relaxed and everything like that. But boy, I'll tell you, that was a torturous exercise for
Well,
me.
it's like, doing the video, the podcasting. I
Mhm.
had a business that I had put every penny into, and it got stolen. It was a
Oh,
technology, and so I literally bottomed out, right?
right,
And
yeah.
I had another business I was trying to go back to, but I wasn't in the right frame of it. And I kind of wrote an article on depression, and this woman contacted me. She said, "I like your content, I like your site, I'd like you to be a part of my podcast network." And I go, "What's a podcast?" And this is back
Right.
in 2012, right?
Yeah,
Before they
right.
were, no, I didn't know what she was talking about. Anyway, I joined her. Don't know where I got the money, but somebody who sponsored me the first one. I don't know, because I literally was living out of my car, and I did that for 13 months. I kind of got the bug, and here I
Right.
had been so betrayed and bottomed out, and here I'm now interviewing people that have embraced their redirects, that have found their courage and their strength and their abilities, and they'd move forward, and became such an inspiration for me that I
Oh,
started
yeah.
my own network, which in June will be 13 years. And I've done over 3,000 shows. And it really does show you how wonderful humanity is
Yep.
when we discover who we are, why we are, and what we're really here to do, and stop buying, the Kool-Aid facade that is being Tinseltown in front of us, and let no, it's your abundance and your enrichment is inside out, not the other way around. And so
Right.
I do a show every week that's just mine on whatever topic. This last
Right.
week is on Chinese New Year, right?
Right. I
And
love that. I love
right,
that.
which is all about, what the horse year, which I'm a horse, which is a good year. But sometimes I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, and I press record and see what comes out, and just let it flow and trust
Yeah.
it, right? And
Right.
that's where I'm at my strength, not when I'm having to fit into an agenda. But at the
Right.
same time, I've interviewed people who are what I call grandiosos. They're used
Oh,
to a
yeah.
stage, right? The rah rah, they're up on the stage and this, that, and they actually don't know how to have a conversation, right? Because they're still platforming, and they don't know how to actually have an interaction with you. Now, you've been a podcaster with
Yeah.
you were actually on radio, and then you had a post on, you've done what,
Right.
900 Christian shows, right? You
Right.
know what it's like when you get somebody that's all rah rah when it comes to it, like, I have no idea what
Well,
to
the cool
say.
part with what I did was all live. We had a
Mhm.
studio here in Chicago, and I was in not only broadcasting on live on the radio. Well, it was pre-recorded, but also they would
Right.
podcast it too. And yeah, you're right. I 11 years and 900 interviews from all over the
Mm.
country, business leaders, and I just loved it. I really
Yes.
loved it. I was, but the reason was because I was so intrigued by everybody else's story.
Yes.
I couldn't help myself. Well,
No.
tell me more,
Yes. And when you
Mm.
look at the news, and just like that, like, I won't blame, Mother Earth, just saying, "God, you suck humans, delete." Right? I really wouldn't blame her, because quite honestly, we are showing, especially now, the worst of worst of worst of what we are. But when you get to interview people who are the best, and it's through trial and tribulation, and they didn't give up, and they didn't give in, and they
Yeah.
found their resilience, and they found their strength, and they found their calling, and they're here to empower someone else, that's when we start seeing the best of humanity. And if I didn't have this, I don't know if I could cope with that. But this really shows me how many people, it doesn't matter what age. The youngest I interviewed was 10, the oldest 92. And it doesn't matter what the age is. It's that realization first, wake up every day with gratitude. I'm awake today. I've
Yes.
got a day in
Oh
front of
yeah.
me, right?
You bet.
Appreciation,
Hmm.
consideration, compassion, caring, kindness towards yourself and others. Right. And now you're riding on a wave and a flow that opens up that beautiful vibrational door to have other beautiful energies come in that you share, and your energy and the essence just exudes out even more than the words.
Oh, the other thing, like you said, I think is really profound. You got to take care of yourself. You got to be
Yes.
good with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Really, to thyself be true. That's an
Oh,
old
mm-hmm.
thing. But what does that really mean?
Yeah.
Because I think, well, my feeling is that the narcissism meter is way up here over
Oh
the
my
top,
God, it's on steroids.
and the unfortunate part about those people really don't know who they are.
The
They're
lost children.
acting.
Yes.
It's just
Yeah.
it's like, and uh, I laughed. A guy was interviewing me. He says, "What do you think about the um, self-branding? Personal branding and all that stuff?" I said, "I'm not a big fan." I
Mm-hmm.
said, most of these people are just a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
How can a 25-year-old tell you how to run your business or be a leader or anything else when they've never experienced any of this stuff?
Yes.
Or even a 30-year-old for, it's like, where's the meat? Remember the old commercial,
Uh-huh.
where's the beef?
Yes, yes,
In
where's the
Wendy's
beef?
commercial,
Yes,
where's the
I do.
beef?
Yeah.
Clara. And I was sitting there and I actually said that in the past. I said, where's the beef? That's fine. That's their thing and so on and so forth. But, it's like a shooting star. It's going to flame out. It's for what purpose? What's the whole idea of this? I get it. I understand it. And again, it gets back to fame and what we idolize in across the country, across the world.
Put
What
people
we
on
idolize.
pedestals, and then once they're there, pull them right down again, right?
Yeah, and so that's why this. You said it earlier. Authenticity.
Hmm.
It has a lot of different meanings to
Yes.
different people. Okay, and so it to me, authenticity gets back to the whole idea of trust. Can I
Mm.
trust you? Well, you're going to demonstrate that through your character, through your
Yes.
reliability,
Yes.
through
Yes.
resilience, through a whole bunch of different things that will allow me then to figure out if I really can trust you or not.
It's not what you do,
And
it's who you are.
well, that's exactly
Yeah.
right. It was like when I was doing the podcast, it wasn't about how people would talk to me about their faith. How are you walking it out?
Yeah.
How are you doing that practically every day in and day out?
Yeah.
How are you serving humanity? What's the purpose of your money? Making the money. What are you doing with it?
Hmm.
Well, how are you giving back or making something out of that?
Paying it
And
forward, seeding
well, yeah,
opportunities.
exactly. Pay it
Yes.
for. I mean, there's a lot of
Mm.
these things that come and go, but I'm a big Bob Berg fan. His Drug Giver, and in
Hmm.
back really early on, he had a book called Endless Referrals.
Hmm.
And that I actually saw him a couple times present and everything and he's genuine. This guy's the real deal.
Hmm.
He really is. And I was so taken with that, and like great leaders, Zig Ziglar
Hmm.
and all these guys, because I was into sales, marketing,
Yes.
business development, all that stuff. So I picked out certain people that they really were authentic. They were the
Hmm.
real deal. And
In it for the right
and
reason.
exactly. And I would observe their habits and what they would do, you know, afterwards, like they give a talk, like you said, they
Hmm.
give a talk. Well, it's interestingly enough, a lot of people that are, what do you call them? Introverts
Hmm.
that get on stage in their life, but then
Yeah.
afterwards, they can't
Yes.
even, like you said, they can't even
Yeah.
address you one to one.
Right.
They can address a big crowd. They can't
Yeah.
address one to one and have a
Hmm.
conversation. So I would observe these people after I watched them to see what they would do with the crowd, or would they
Mm.
take and sign books or do any of that kind of stuff. And that were the people that I saw they genuinely cared about what the heck they were doing. They
Mm.
they were fulfilled by it, but they were, more importantly, they were giving, and they were giving willingly of
Yes.
information and stuff like that. So I think we're going to get back to it. I don't want to paint an ugly picture, because I am so encouraged by young people and some of the things I'm
Yes.
seeing with young people today. And they really care about stuff that we should all, as adults, as a boomer, I should have been caring about. The earth,
Yes.
taking care of
Yes.
other people and all that. Um, I'm so blessed. Two of my grandchildren are going into healthcare. One is
Hmm.
a nurse in med surge. My youngest grandson just graduated, is going into biomedical engineering. My youngest son now is studying to be a prosthesist, where it puts people for prosthetics.
Right, yes.
And guess what? The conversation, it's nothing about the money. It's
No,
about giving back and what
the
this is going to do.
enrichment of other people's
Oh,
souls. Yes,
God, I
yes,
can't tell you how excited I get when my son talks
yes.
about giving mobility
Hmm.
to handicapped people that have a problem. And I'm thinking, now this kid's get it. He gets it. That's the way to be thinking about that kind of stuff, not about the money or what he's going to make or anything else. So,
A couple
yeah,
of years ago, I put out a book, Our Forgotten Children. And the reason
yeah,
around this, it's an awareness book. And it's around, the raising of our children, the obstacles and the challenges and the everything else that's there. And I wanted this book to bring awareness to how society is not serving our children and how many
oh boy,
things that we stigmatize or we ignore or we just don't understand. And I feel that, a lot of it is we're overlooking the awareness, and it's straight to results. How can you have results without awareness? And I think
right,
that when you have young people with their energy and their enthusiasm, and you mix it with people who have the maturity and the experience, and you put the two together, now you've really got something that has depth and roots and foundation to grow on, right? My next book is Our Forgotten Seniors. And in that is celebrating what seniors do, what they've
yep,
done, all they've contributed, their challenges of being a senior, either in society or health or wealth or loneliness, but also
right,
the warning to the youth. Start preparing
yeah,
for your seniorship now because it hits you over the head. And if you're not prepared, it's going to flatten you. And I think this is the thing, what we need to understand. Stop dismissing people either on their race, their color, their religion, their age, their
right. Age, yep,
demographic, their this,
gender,
their that, and start looking at people from the very heart and soul and spirit of who they are.
yep,
I once got criticized for saying I don't see color because I don't. That's your package that you're in, right?
right.
You came in this black, white, pink polka dot. I don't care what your casing you're in. I care what's
Right.
in the casing.
You got it. Yep. I couldn't agree more. And I am so excited that you're writing that next book
Well, no,
because
I'm looking
one
for
of
authors to be a part of it because this is an anthology. So I'm looking for authors to contribute, right? I
yep,
want their voices, their experiences in there, right?
yeah. And I'm a big fan of this because I think that a lot of companies were discarding people that had
Hmm.
had the
Hmm.
tribal knowledge, had all this
Hmm.
stuff. And now I'm finding this kind of a reversal. They're starting
Yes,
to bring some of these back in. I'm really excited about it because I tell, people in my age category, if you don't have really bad health problems, you got a lot to give.
yes,
Go out and volunteer, do whatever,
yes,
but don't sit home and die. You got to be out there and get active because we're living longer. I
yes.
mean, come on,
And
and
life
so
is to be lived right up to the very end. I had a father that died at 45 through heart
mhm,
disease, and he'd been in the war, fighter pilot squadron leader.
right,
And when he got home, it was stiff upper lip and carry on. And then he worked with a
right,
brother whom he hated, and that all eventually demised him, right? And
right,
when we're looking at it, my mother died at 95. I lived with somebody who's now 92. She still drives, she still cooks, she's still short-term memory, definitely gone, but like, puzzles
yeah,
every time, mahjong, you name it. And the thing is, we don't use we lose it. And life is about
right,
living right to the very end, right?
yes. I applaud you. That book is going to be on my bookshelf. If there's something I can contribute to it, I'll certainly entertain that. But I'm not
No,
much of a
please,
writer. But
please.
you
No,
know,
I don't care if people are writers or not. All they have to do is share their paragraph, share their story, their chapter. I've got
mhm,
people. My brother's a professional author and literary major, so he'll do any editing. But I don't want to lose the wisdom because people are too scared
yep,
to share it because they're not a writer. All right, just share your story. Share your
yep,
story. We'll perfect how it's written, but I want you to share. And we want to celebrate your contribution, but we
right,
also want to be aware and want society aware of what challenges. Are you not being seen? Do you have health problems and you're not being supported? Has society
right,
shunned you? Are you alone because you feel ostracized by family or this? What would you have done differently if you were younger, as a warning to the youth? And I don't want to lose that wisdom. That's why I want to put
yep,
it in a book.
yep. Boy, Amen, amen, amen.
Podcast book, Summit's podcast book. It's the whole thing.
Well, that's the cool part about what you're doing
Yes.
is you got a platform to talk about this, plus all the wealth of knowledge and
Yes.
interviews you've had and all this other
Yeah.
thing that you got the content. It's just
Yes.
getting the people that want to do it. And frankly, some of that could be where you just interviewed people for the book
Yes.
and then you write that down and record it, and because a lot more people are auditory than they are,
Mm,
written word. Because people labor over that. I do, if I got this
mm.
right. And I know there's all kinds of programs
I
out
may
there
have
to
to do it that way
correct
because
it.
some people are really good at it. And if they want to do that, they can. For other people,
Yeah,
yes, I'll do it as an interview. And quite honestly, the AI can extract and make it into, the chapter by getting rid of my voice
mhm,
and having the other person's voice. So yes, that's a way of doing it. I just don't want people to put barriers in their way because they feel they can't do this, they can't do that. And you have co-authored a book, put the win back in your sales, right? So
yeah,
you've co-authored in that book, and whether people have co-authored or written a blog or just surely are a storyteller and they don't realize it. You
yeah,
can speak into Zoom your story. You don't have to write it. It can be
right,
transcribed. So no
right.
excuses. I just want the wisdom.
That's great. And hopefully, this has led to something that you can put out there and say, look,
Yes.
you don't have to write it. Just
Yes.
go on Zoom, do this.
Yes.
If you want have somebody interview you to
Yep.
talk to you
Yep.
verbally, and we'll record that. Because storytelling is a lot of that. It's like up
Yes.
here, then because you know, I I really wrestle with the writing part of it, and I did for the book. I wrote a part of the book, but my partner at the time, he was the horsepower, he was the intellectual, and he
Hmm.
had that in him. He really was jonesing to write a book, and great. I was along for the ride.
Well, you see behind you all those books that I've got up there, Digital
Yeah,
Fiercely and all of that. So I have been in four anthologies and I've written my own book. And, I do have
yeah,
dyslexia and grammar, forget it. But, there are tools that can perfect that. And it's about sharing the story. Everything else can be finessed. And, the
well,
importance is this, we need to have more people share their story,
yeah,
their experiences, their wisdom. Because for those that choose to listen, they will learn something. They
yeah,
will see something differently. They maybe can take a tool from that and apply it in their own life. But this, I've got 3,900 shows up here, and that is 39, 100
right,
hours at least of wisdom. That is, if you're willing to listen, it's
yep,
going to just have you look at something differently. And if it's only a fraction, a crack, or if it's the whole yard, I don't care. It's about stop dismissing because you're
right.
so busy chasing. Slow down, listen, learn. And then how can you apply it in a way that enhances your own life, your own meaningful purpose, your own service?
Yeah. You're so bang on, sir. That's why I love, we discovered we're both Libras, so we can talk
Yes,
probably for
yes,
two
the
hours,
balance of
and
the
all that stuff.
conversation.
And we're all, we love connecting people. We're
Yeah.
relational and all that stuff. Hopefully, some people picked up on a couple of good things today, from our
Mm.
conversation. I'm really hoping so, particularly about your book. That is the two books the
Our
Unforgotten
Forgotten
Children,
Children,
and then
and
the
then the
one with the
new one will
seniors.
be Our Forgotten
Yeah.
Seniors. Yes.
Yeah, I just applaud you for that because it's really important, as you said, to really kind of put this in memoriam, and
Yeah.
as a gift. I got to tell you something. For any of those out there, grandparents or
Hmm.
seniors, what a gift that would be to give to some kids, give your
Yes.
grandkids or your
Yes.
kids today.
Yes.
Oh my God! Although you're probably going to have to do it in an audio version, but
Well, there will be. There will
because
be
they don't read
paperback.
anymore.
Right now, there will be paperback, there will be ebook, and there will be audiobook. Um, and
That's it.
what we'll be doing is once we will do a summit with all of the authors that then will become the fundraising platform to pay for all of that.
How
Right.
many
So
how many people do you think you want to have in the book?
I'd like to have, I had 15 in the last one. I could have 15 or more,
Okay,
but I'd like to have, at least 15.
that's
So
great. That's
but
great.
it's just like even, reading the chapters that were in this book, I learned things like I never knew. And I've got people that have worked with children, people that have had obstacles with children, people that, in music or teach children yoga and meditation, all of them they're children advocates. right?
Yeah.
And it's and we need more advocacy, and especially in North
Yeah.
America, where we just see such dismissal of children. Why have you got so many narcissists or people depressed or going on drugs and things like this, or shooting people up, which unfortunately we just recently had? And it is because they do not feel seen, they do not feel heard, they do not feel appreciated, and they also don't know who they are because society has told them they've got to be that. All right. And when they aren't that and they're confused at who they really are, let us support who they really are and what they're really here to do, and be the wind behind their back, and let them make that discovery of how awesome and beautiful they are and their contribution. We'll have a much better and healthier society. But our society sickness comes down to the way we raise our children, and societal, it is the wrong way.
Preach it, girl. Preach it.
It's that passion that brought about the book. So yeah.
I love it. Well, count me in. If I can contribute, I will. Even with my hesitation about writing. But
again, as you said, you don't have to write. You can just audio it and it get transcribed.
Just do audio. You're absolutely right.
Simply do it on Zoom. It has a transcript already, and there we are. Right. So
how long are you looking for these?
I'm looking at 3,000 words.
3,000.
1 to 3,000 words, but if it goes a bit over, as long as it's not under the 1,000. But yes, it's it really is. We have so much wisdom, and yes, you're right. We can have people with a great deal of knowledge, a great deal of skills at 30, right? They've got an aptitude for learning. They've learned this, they've learned that, but without the experience, which is the wisdom, they don't really know how to apply it. And so, I call that the knowingness. At our age, we know how to listen to our wisdom. We know when it's true because it resonates in our heart. We give it to our spirit in action for our mind to know what it needs to know when we need to know it. When you're young, you're driven by knowledge. But if you don't have the wisdom compass of the heart, soul, and the spirit, you really don't understand what that knowledge is for. And we need, and that wisdom comes with experience and life and etc. But I want them to get it earlier. So,
I think part of the problem is we're just being flooded with so much information.
Oversaturated.
Any of this information into any knowledge, and to your point, then into wisdom.
Yes.
Because it's so vast.
Yes. What we've got to do is don't think it, feel it. Feel it to understand what it is, not think it to feel it. It's got to be felt.
Well, that's the whole part of communication. Do you feel it?
Yes.
What was her name? Angelou said, it's not what you say, it's how people make
people feel. Yeah. Yes.
And it's so right.
That's going back to like the sales we were talking about, of the communication and referring. It's like, how did you make me feel? I felt good, so I feel good at referring you, or I feel good at doing business with you, or I want to meet you again because you made me feel good, seen and heard. Everything is down to feeling, but we've been told to suppress feelings. Don't be emotional. Suppress your feelings. Keep your feelings out of this. No, 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 no. We don't want hysteria, and we don't want violins and, melodrama.
Right.
But what we do want is touch your feelings to understand what they are and what your connection is with people.
Yep. So much wisdom packed into that lady with those nice glasses and those bright eyes. I love it.
Us gray hairs have got a lot going on, right?
Hey, this is my wisdom here.
Yeah, exactly.
As my the gal that cuts my hair, she said, "At least you have hair."
Exactly. Yes, I
celebrate. You got some hair,
I know. I cut my own hair. It's like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Snip, snip, snip. And it's like a lot to do with how I feel. Snip.
It looks great. You wear it well.
Thank you. But I think kind of what the common denominator we're looking at here today is don't be afraid to feel. Don't be afraid to come from the inside out. If you want to be a good leader, you've got to feel what leadership is. What do people need? They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be appreciated. The more appreciation, the more you see them and the more you support them, the more they will support your business. Right? And do not dismiss someone because the janitor came up with an idea. Listen, right? Respect. If you don't show respect, why the hell should they show respect to you? It's all the others. Do unto others as you hope they'll do unto you. And when you build that environment, whether it's 3 or 4 people in your company or thousands, show everybody the respect that it's not about the profit. And when the profit's there, you're willing to share. because that's appreciation. And then you will have people that will be loyal, that will consider you because you consider them. They will want to be behind the growth, and you will have customers that will come back again and again because they feel appreciated and seen and heard and served. So we've got to go back to that. We've got to go back to the human equation. If we really want to understand what abundance is, it's in the heart and soul of a human. That's really, really the commerce is.
Well, now you know why I'm passionate about it.
Exactly. And the reason why we
You say it
connected,
much
we
better
share the
than I do
passion.
because, but yeah, that was the inspiration for all of this, and I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed, to be able to engage in this work, work with the kind of quality of the people I'm working with. I mean, it's just they're terrific, and
Exactly.
to your point, they all have accolades. They've got this and that, but they're real human beings. And
Yes.
they're giving real stuff that you can really benefit from. Uh, but you got to have a little bit of an emphasis on that. And the good news is it's starting to become a subject of people paying attention to. That's
Exactly.
the good news.
And
You
the
know,
thing is, don't get caught up by the tinsel of someone's title or how rich, famous, or whatever they are. I've interviewed princes, I've interviewed ambassadors, I've interviewed actors, and to me that they're just beautiful people where we're having a conversation. I'm not
yep,
interviewing their title. That may be their
right,
achievement, but it still comes down to who are they? And if we start looking
yep,
at each other more, again, from the heart, soul, and spirit of who we are, it doesn't matter what the title
yep,
is, right? We've got to stop, following tinsel and start looking at core.
yep. I agree 1000%. I'm just so grateful you let me come on today and talk a little bit about some passion. I obviously have some passion for, and you got it right from the get-go. I mean, you when we had our first conversation, you got that. And I just felt, because of the work you're doing and the passion you have for doing what you're doing and interviewing I mean, I'm 3,000 people. That's a lot of interviews.
A lot of
I
good
had
people with
900 to my
great.
credit, 3,000. I'm going, whoa, yeah. But to your point, you're finding people, you're doing it genuinely to find people of interest, and
Yes.
what's pulling that out
Yeah.
across the whole spectrum of
Yeah.
stuff, a whole range of things that, uh, depending upon the audience, it's something for everybody,
Exactly.
you lock into something that somebody's going to take away a little couple nuggets. At least that's what we all hope for,
Right.
you know, when we're sharing with some things or nuggets of wisdom that, okay, maybe it's going to hit a couple people out there and maybe hopefully make their lives better or do something.
And
So,
this is under the genre of building your business, but you've got to understand you are your business, whatever
right.
business you're doing, right? You're building yourself, right?
Well, the other thing too is what's the purpose of the business? A lot of people don't understand
Exactly.
what the purpose of their business
Yes.
is in the first place.
Yeah.
They come up with an idea, they saw something that, was a void in the marketplace, or it's a me too or something.
Hmm.
Well, so what?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of that? So I kind of got a little bit um, there's a site out there called Wisdom Ads. And
Hmm.
these are old ad guys that were growing up in the ad industry,
You're right.
and they the essence of everything that they did was about the message and how you
Hmm.
connected with people.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Today I'm sitting there dumbfounded when I see commercials or any of this. I'm
I
thinking,
don't even know what this advertising.
I'm sitting
Right?
there going, what the heck is this? What is this
Yeah,
about?
funny commercial. What was it for? Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I can go back and remember a lot of the commercials that hit me, that made me feel good
Coca-Cola.
or connected me or
Yeah.
any of that stuff. Or, crazy enough, they had a jingle or something like that.
Yes.
You remember. One of the podcasts I did was about the Big Mac and how
Hmm.
everybody could recite the recipe for the Big Mac,
Yes.
and how they would reinforce it all the time and all that stuff. And they had a contest about that where
Hmm.
they were going to give away a year of Big Macs if somebody could recite that. It's amazing the response they got. And talk
Yes.
about something that was just reinforcing the brand and
Right.
reinforcing McDonald's. It was just like, but I I know that stuff because I grew up in that era, kind of
Yeah.
the Mad Men era of advertising and understood it and get a chuckle out of. Again, this one podcast I was interviewed on, he was asking me about,
Yeah.
and I said, "Look, it gets down to the messaging. You know, what are you communicating to somebody? How are you making them feel? Do they really understand what this is about and what's it going to do for me?
Right.
Why should I even go out and be involved in that? Or how's it going to make my life better? In my training, I said, there's three things a buyer is thinking of when you're sitting in front of them. Okay. You're going to make me money,
Hmm.
save me time or money, or make me
Hmm.
look good. Now,
Right.
the third one, because I was dealing with a lot of Fortune companies, it
Yes.
was those guys that want to climb the ladder and get the attaboys and the acknowledgement
Mm.
of it. And I always shared with them too. If something goes sideways here, I'm going to be standing between you and the bullet. I'll take
Uh-huh.
it on. And because the philosophy about that was, I'm going to protect you as my client. I'll protect you from, on high and the decisions you made. And I got to tell you something, that earned me more
Yeah.
stuff than I could tell you,
Yeah.
because people would take me around, walk me through the halls of some of these corporations. I've been in some of the biggest companies in the world, and they would take me up and down the hall. Hey, I want you to meet Bob. He
Mm.
did our last thing, and all this stuff. Uh, the story about the nerd stuff. This guy was
Yeah.
enthralled by that, the whole thing. Matter of fact, one guy interviewed me and did a podcast on it, and we had a blast. I really he's like his podcast have got to be live. He's got a studio right here in Chicago, so you have to
Right.
come to his studio
Yeah.
because it's so rich, with
Mm.
the live stuff and the
Yes.
gestures and everything else. Not putting this down, but because you got to do this
I
with
know.
people, as big as
Well,
what
I
you are.
literally go around the world here, which I wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah,
So
you're
yeah.
going around the world. But
Mm.
again, big shout out, Sarah. I think I love what you're doing, and I can't wait to see this book come out. I told you that before. Anything I can do to help you with that, I'll do it.
Well, if
Because
you
I
know
think it's
any of the
really
people that
important.
want to contribute, that's what I'm gathering right now. And up
Okay,
till
good,
June is my deadline. I want to get people involved, and I'd like it to be out for the fall and for Christmas.
good.
So that's
That's
what my
excellent.
aim is. And
That would be a great Christmas gift. That would be
it
great.
would be
Okay,
because it's not a bunch of old folks and old stories or recipes. It's about the recipe for life
there you go.
and how to get through it and some tips and skills and tools that you can apply to your own life to, save you time and grief. Right? We don't want you falling in the Grand Canyon. Potholes are okay, but not Grand Canyons, right? Avoid the cosmic 2x4. Listen to the nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So, and if you do get the cosmic 2x4, how to pick yourself up and carry on, right?
I got a phone for you. Things I've learned from my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
That I reflect on that every once
Yes.
in a while. I think, wow, they're smart. But
Yeah.
you sit there and you listen. And I did something at Christmas this year that I haven't and never done before. We have a dinner, a Christmas Eve dinner, and we had the whole family together. And this year, everybody attended. I mean, they came from Montana to
Mm,
Tennessee to New York City. They
lovely.
came in, and we all sat around before we giving the gifts away. And I said, I have a request, because doing this around Thanksgiving, what are you thankful for? But this time I said, what are you grateful for?
Mm,
I mean, it was enlightening
yes.
what as we went around the room, as what people were grateful for.
I've been
Uh,
doing that for with my kids, and now my son has a restaurant, and he throws Thanksgiving for his staff, and he throws Christmas parties for his staff. But one of the things he does at the Thanksgiving one for sure is going, "What are you grateful for?" And it has people in tears, and people saying things like they normally wouldn't say, and it just
yeah,
brings everyone together, and it's just so beautiful. But we used to do that around the table. What are you grateful for? Um,
yeah,
and I'd have people from Christmas from different cultures that had never experienced Christmas, and it wasn't all about big present wrapping or
mhm,
this or that. It was about
right,
coming together, and that's
yep,
my kids have all gone on to doing things that are community based, which is really really
yep,
important. So, and I think that's the community enrichment is based on our participation, and the more we
right,
participate, the stronger. And look, it's not one size fits all. You're going to have the
right,
different vibe tribes. There's certain people are working on a different frequency. They're still a part of the community,
yep,
right? And they still got it's
yep,
like an orchestra. We all play a different instrument and we have to come together to play harmoniously. But if this piece of music isn't yours, that's fine. You're going to come in after us with your piece of music, but we're still part of the orchestra, right? So we've got to stop looking at differences and start looking at commonalities and foundational interests and be there for each other, right?
yeah.
So that's really
Well,
important.
I can't believe we've been at it for an hour and a half. This is great.
Well, let's look at the site so people can go to human to the number two, human to human LLC.com.
LLC.com. Yep.
And
Yep.
this is where, everything that you're doing and everything that you're around and everything that, that you see and whether, people, can hire you or not hire you. It's about learning, leadership development, employee retention. Just read it and see it for yourself. Share this podcast out with people that that are kind of looking at their lives moving forward and what can they learn, because it's all about what can we learn that we can apply. There's always, I don't care how old we are, there is always something to learn. I don't care how successful you are, there's always something to learn, right? And complacency kills, right? And comparison and competition, it kills. It is about community, it is about compassion, cohesiveness, collaboration, and being kind to yourself and sharing that kindness out with others. People can also find you on LinkedIn. And under LinkedIn, is it just under your name?
It's Robert. Yeah, Robert Lambert.
Robert Lambert, Lambert. And also, they can reach out to you at bob@human2humanllc.com. And also the book, Put the Wind Back in Your Sails. People can get that book as well. It's on Amazon, and they can go there as well and get some wind back in their sails. We all need a lot of wisdom.
That was we published that in 10 after the big crash, and all that. And we had some great advice on that because we published through a couple guys that came out of a big publisher, and they gave us terrific wisdom on this. 111 pages, as I tell people, 111 pages, 2 cups of coffee, and you're through this thing. Right. And it's not a how-to book. It kind of, frankly, it's kind of a little history lesson of how sales evolved, and right up until the time that we wrote. And then basically the model that we created called the buying decision model. How every human being goes through a process when they make a buy. And that's really what it was. And they gave us great counsel. They said, don't make it into a how-to. Otherwise, you're giving everything away.
Yes.
It got down to that. So, and this has been going on since the dawn of man. This is nothing new.
Of course.
We didn't discover fire here. It's just like, okay, we broke it down so it could be simple to understand. Because when I would take students through it or customers through it, they go, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. And you said, well,
clarity and fundamentals.
Absolutely. Keep it simple. I think we've just gotten way too complicated.
Oh God. But why? We've got complex because somebody benefits from it. When we keep it simple, everybody benefits from it, not just somebody, right? So keep it simple, keep it clear, keep it invitational. And keep it, compassionate.
Yeah, boy, we can use a big dose of that right now.
Oh my God, can we? But we've got the fire horse year with this, which is all about positive change and really moving forward. We've got numerology number 1, which is new beginnings, right?
That's right.
And so right now, everything is about you want to make change. This is the year to do it, but it's got to be done from a place of real authenticity, real integrity, that really is serving. All right. And the wind will be behind our back. We're not repeating 2025 or any of those years around that nonsense. This is the year about kind of cleaning things up, common sense, sensibility, compassion, love, and kindness, and moving forward more productively.
Yeah. And hopefully the second half of this decade is going to be a whole different ball game than what the first half was,
Yeah, exactly. But that's all up to us. It's not somebody else. It's not government or anyone else. We want change. We've got to be the change. We want love. We've got to be the love. We want to be the compassion. It's all us. We are the ones that set the stage of how others receive us and how we change society. So if you don't like what's out there, be something different and bring it forth. Right.
Be the change.
Be the change. Positive change. Yes. I could talk to you all day, Bob, very, very easily. It's been an absolute delight having you here.
Thank you.
Wonderful conversation. And I love this whole human to human because, yes, if we can't see each other, if we can't support each other, and it's all about me, myself, and I, that's where the bankruptcy is. It's soul bankruptcy. When it's about us, the I, there's no I in team. I'm sorry. We need an I in team, because when I am the best I am and I authentically bring myself to the rest, everyone benefits, right?
Yep.
Not about sacrifice. It's about service. My honest to God, heartfelt service. But you've got to know your own heart first. So fortify yourself so you can bring the best of yourself to everyone else.
I agree. It's great.
Delight having you here. Folks, get the book, reach out to him, have a chat. Robert Lambert over on LinkedIn, human2humanllc.com. Even if you're not in business, or you just want to kind of look at the ideas, it's all, seeding. Water those seeds, see where they go, be exploratory, be wondrous, right? You have no idea what's waiting for you until you're willing to take that first step. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you to listen to right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Come and hear the illumination that's going to shed light on your path.
Find your path with the knowledge of others.